Hello everyone, welcome to Ross IELTS Academy. I'm Sarah and together we're gonna learn the IELTS reading techniques so you can improve your score. Stay with me till the end of the reading tips and try to apply all these techniques until you get used to them and be ready for the exam. Alright, let's get started. But before getting into any details, let's see what the IELTS reading test format is. In IELTS exam, you will be given 3 reading passages, which include between 2,000 to 2,700 words. The reason I mention these numbers is for you to know that the passages are long, and you may not manage to read them all if you have no techniques. So, you should answer 40 questions in 1 hour. The questions get harder as you move on from passage 1 to passage 3. You will be dealing with different question types. And finally, you will be given no extra time to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. The next thing about the IELTS reading is its different formats, academic and general. In academic reading, the texts are taken from journals, newspapers, books, and magazines, and they are on academic topics. However, you don't need to have any specific knowledge to answer the questions. I will teach you how. In general reading, the texts are taken from notices, advertisements, company handbooks, official documents, books, magazines, and newspapers. In general reading, the purpose is to make sure the candidate understands the everyday content in an English-speaking country. Now that we know the difference between academic and general reading, we can get started. But before learning the different types of questions, let's learn some techniques on how to read the paragraphs in the correct way. This is skimming and scanning. Skimming is reading quickly to find the general overview of the passage, while scanning is reading quickly to find the specific details within the passage. When we are skimming, we always read the major parts carefully. Title, heading, and topic sentence are the main ideas. Don't forget to write a summary of each paragraph in 2 or 3 words next to each paragraph. This way, make sure you have completely understood the main topic of each paragraph and you spend less time to answer the questions. Because when you refer to the paragraphs to find the answers, you have already written the summary of each paragraph next to each of them in 2 or 3 words, so you will get the general idea without having to read it once again. Also, reading the first and the last sentence of a paragraph will provide enough information about the general overview. For example, matching information are easier to answer this way. At the same time, underline any keywords you see, but remember that you should skim read the passage in only 2 to 3 minutes, no longer. Finally, after skimming, the main idea of the entire passage should become clear. However, when we are scanning, proper nouns, dates, times, and numbers are what we are looking for. It is important that you know the keywords in the question so that you can find the keywords in the passage. Some keywords are obvious, like names and numbers, while other keywords should be paraphrased in order to find them in the passage and look for the answer. Again, don't forget to write a summary of each paragraph in 2 or 3 words next to each paragraph. Now let's talk about essential tips that make reading different text formats easier. Title and subheading. Almost all the articles you read in journals, magazines, and newspapers have a title. Many of them have a subheading as well. You should use them to build on your understanding and picture what the whole passage is going to be about. Sometimes, if a passage in the IELTS reading does not have a title or a subheading, it's because one of the questions wants to test your understanding of the theme of the whole passage or why the writer wrote the passage. Number 2 is dealing with unfamiliar words. Think about parts of a speech. If you don't understand the definition of a word, you should guess what part of a speech it is. Is it a verb, noun, adjective, or adverb? This can help you guess the meaning of the unknown word. For example, I didn't know the meaning of the word flop, but I thought to myself, after a new product, I need a verb. Then I look at the next clause which says, a new recruit turns out to be a poor worker. This sentence and also the following one convey a negative meaning. At the same time, I can see the linker or in between the sentences. Therefore, without even knowing the meaning of the word flop, I can say it's a verb with a negative meaning of not being able to do something. Look at how the word is formed. If you don't know the meaning of a difficult word, you can break it up into smaller parts to find other easier words that you might know. For example, if I don't know the meaning of the word unforgettably, I break it up into 4 parts: un plus forget plus able plus ly. I know the meaning of the word forget, which means to fail to remember. Un is a prefix, which changes the word's meaning to negative. Able is the suffix to form an adjective and say something is able to be. And ly is the sign that we add to an adjective to change it to an adverb. So now I can guess that this word is an adverb, which refers to something that cannot be forgotten. Read the word in context. If you don't get the word's meaning, you can look at the text that comes before and after the word. It always gives you a general idea on what the word might mean. I know you might be a bit too confused right now, but don't worry, I'm gonna give you an example to put everything into practice so you can understand it much better. Here, you can see the title, subheading, and the first 2 paragraphs of an IELTS reading passage. As you can see, the title is How to Win the Blame Game. This is the very first thing I see before I read the passage, and based on that, I build up the first idea and the picture of the whole passage. What I can say is that the passage is going to be about blaming and how to win in this competition. Then I move on to the subheading that says, people are often more concerned about avoiding blame than achieving results. But blame can actually be a positive force in the workplace. The trick, says one former Major League Baseball pitcher, is knowing how to use it. By reading this subheading, I get a better understanding of what I will be reading about in the passage. I get the idea that not only the text will be about blaming and being blamed, but also it shows how it can negatively affect people. As a result, this feeling prevents them from making any accomplishments. Meanwhile, we can see that sometimes it can only be useful if you know how to use it in order to change situations. As I mentioned earlier, in some readings there might be no title or any subheadings. Now that I have this general idea of the passage, I start reading from the first paragraph. As I am reading through the text, I underline the keywords. As a new product flops in the marketplace or a new recruit turns out to be a poor worker, blaming somebody for the mistake seems a bit rude. So people talk politely around the blunder, saying things like sales targets were missed or mistakes occurred, as if the error happened all by itself. Indeed, at many companies, blame is never even mentioned. At other organizations, all are too quick to point fingers, leaving employees more concerned about avoiding blame than about achieving results. Such organizations have given blame a bad name. I skimmed through the text to get the general idea, but I didn't read each word and sentence at the same pace. In other words, you should notice that only some words and parts are giving you the main idea, and the rest is more explanation, example, or an introduction to the idea of the next paragraph. In this paragraph, As a new product flops in the marketplace or a new recruit turns out to be a poor worker, blaming somebody for the mistake seems a bit rude, is an introduction to the topic. So people talk politely around the blunder, saying things like sales targets were missed or mistakes occurred, as if the error happened all by itself, is the example that illustrates the main idea. At many companies, blame is never even mentioned. At other organizations, all are too quick to point fingers, is the main idea, showing the two opposing attitudes toward blame, which is the topic. Such organizations have given blame a bad name, is the new idea that may be developed in the next paragraph. Besides, there were some unfamiliar words or grammatical structures that you might not understand, but it's pretty alright. You don't need to understand everything. What matters is understanding the main idea of the passage. From the next video, we're gonna learn the IELTS reading techniques for different types of questions. Watch our videos carefully and try to read as much magazines and newspapers as you can to get used to the passages. I'm Sarah Odeima and we'll see you in the next video. Good luck and bye-bye.